Hey there, I'm Adject, and last week I attended the IndieTales Jam. I must confess, my level design is terrible. I have very little experience with actually building any levels, and if I don't gain any more experience in level design, then I can pretty much forget about my main project. That's why I decided to join a jam again. This time it was a jam hosted by Adam, a pixel artist and a developer running his own channel where he posts tutorials and works on his own games. This jam worked a bit differently from the last one I joined, and we'll get to that bit in a second. But I still really enjoyed the whole process and the jam was a great success. Okay, but enough talking and let's get to the game. The jam started midday for me and the theme was one room. That kind of terminated my plans for centering around a platformer, or at least not the most obvious kind. Nevertheless, me and my friends CNR who did the music started brainstorming on some possible ideas. We settled on an idea where there is a player in one room and on the sides there are some sort of cannons or guns that constantly shoot at him and he has to avoid them. The idea was promising, but we knew that it didn't guarantee it to be fun. So on my side, I started working on testing it out. And of course, even while designing the very basics, I received major setbacks while designing. The first one was, how do I spawn the billets? Like, will there be some pre-made shapes in which the billets will spawn, or will they spawn completely randomly? If by any chance you watched a video about game jamming, a lot of times people encourage you to try something new. So that's what I did. I got my hands ready and I dipped them in some procedural generation. If by any chance you have no clue what I'm talking about, procedural generation just means that we leave the computer to do the complex task for us, like creating a map or random items. And this is not easy. Procedural generation can be completely random. You have to give it rules like use only these sprites for the guns or below these heights water should spawn. In my case, I have to restrict my projectiles in such a way to not make the game too easy, nor a bullet hell. But even the core of our procedural generation doesn't have to be completely random. Let's use noise, in this case Perlin noise, or his younger brother, simplex noise. These noises work in a way. Okay, I think you heard these explanations often enough, and you can find better ones elsewhere, so just see it visually. Here is a 500 by 500 picture of randomly shaded pixels, and here is the picture where you use open simplex noise from Godot to shade each pixel. And as we can see, the pixels on the latter picture are more relevant to each other, making them great for a lot of things, in our case for shooting bullets. We've ended up with this as our minimum viable product. I also added these collectibles that players have to collect to recharge their battery. That solved our problem of encouraging the player to move around the map and worked great with our concept. Yeah, all that sounds great, but the game looked really bad at the moment. So I started adding some art. I firstly had to design the player, and since there was a battery in the game already, I made this little cute robot. Then I made few tiles, which were supposed to resemble white concrete. After assembling it all together, we've got this. You can pretty much see now where I'm going with this design. And now, what's the second most vital thing to movement? You might think about all those lame quirks like coyote time, but it actually is the running animation, or generally the animations for movement. They have a really big influence on the gameplay, and if you get those right, movement can feel much smoother than it actually is. Or even the opposite if you mess it up. You know where I'm getting at, because now it's time to do the running animation. In this case, before jumping on the animation itself, I firstly made a basic sketch, hoping that it might help me to make better run animation in the end. The main problem with my sprite was that it had a lot of details. Because it's small resolutions like this, it is very hard to animate them, so I wasn't as happy with my sprite in the end, and ended up remaking it. But looking back, I think more effective would be just leaving the first animation as it is, and focusing more on the general polish of the game. After that, I added sprites for the UI and the electric bolt. And for that came another fun part, shaders. Each modern computer has a CPU, and most of them also a GPU. Now what is the difference between them? Well, I'm no expert and you can find people explain it better elsewhere, But basically, CPU is one unit, or processor, capable of doing tasks, but only one at a time. So even with incredible clock speeds in gigahertz that we have today, rendering millions of pixels on modern screens and complex geometry of today's 3D games would be really slow and far from playable. So here comes the GPU. The graphical processing unit, or GPU, is composed of thousands of little microprocessors, together capable of doing thousands of tasks at once. It has its own downsides, but without it you wouldn't go very far when it comes to playing games. Shaders are a powerful tool, but I still know very little, so I use them for two simple but very useful ideas. In the first one, I made the bolt levitate to make it stand out more, while in the second one, I make the player flicker every time when hit to make it more clear when taking damage. After all this, I had some pretty solid mechanics for my game figured out, but I wanted the game to be finishable and also to practice the promised level design. So with almost no time to spare, I threw myself right into that. My plan was to call it waves instead of levels, and to fit the theme, have the environment change instead of player going from room to room. And as the player moved through the 5 waves, the difficulty would increase, and that would be in 3 areas: the block placement, the projectile occurrence, and the projectile speed. I also made this animation of blocks rolling out of the wall to make the in-between wave transitions even more seamless. Sadly, most of the wave layouts had to be made by CNR, because we were very low on time. Besides, if there is no other reason to check out our game, then check it out at least for the soundtrack. CNR did a great job and the music is absolute bangers. After that we did the menus, fixed most of the bugs, and with less than 3 minutes left, submitted the game. Both of us really enjoyed the jam, and thank you all to the people who gave us feedback, because from that we made a post-jam version which is not only improved but also upgraded. We would be happy if you checked it out in the description, so enjoy and thanks for watching.